Yesterday at Dover Air Force Base, President Trump, the chairman, and I stood in solemn silence as heroes came home. Flag-draped caskets, we honored them. We grieved with their families, and we listened. What I heard through tears, through hugs, through strength, and through unbreakable resolve was the same from family after family. They said, finish this. Honor their sacrifice. Do not waver. Do not stop until the job is done. My response, along with that of the president, was simple. Of course, we will finish this. We will honor their sacrifice. Their sacrifice only steals our commitment.
On April 13th, 2026, 2 United States Navy destroyers entered one of the most dangerous stretches of water on the planet. Not for a drill, not for a show of force. They went in to clear mines, real mines, laid in the Strait of Hormuz by Iranian forces. What began as a diplomatic standoff between Washington and Tehran has now crossed into a phase that the world has not seen in decades. This is what is happening right now. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow channel of water, no more than 21 miles wide at its most constricted point, sitting between the southern coast of Iran and the tip of the Arabian Peninsula. To look at it on a map, it seems almost insignificant. But remove it from the equation, and the global economy begins to suffocate. Every single day, approximately 20% of all the oil traded across the entire planet passes through this strait. That is roughly 21 million barrels per day. Saudi Arabia's exports, Iraq's exports, Kuwait, the UAE, Qatar, all of it funneled through a single corridor 21 miles wide, controlled by geography and, right now, contested by military force. Iran understood this decades ago. It is not an accident that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has spent years positioning naval assets, coastal missile batteries, and underwater infrastructure along the edges of this waterway. The Strait of Hormuz is not just geography, it is leverage. In the weeks prior to April 13th, the United States and Iran were engaged in ceasefire negotiations, talks held in Pakistan, designed to de-escalate what had become a direct military confrontation between the two nations. Those talks collapsed. According to Vice President J.D. Vance, speaking at a press conference after the delegation returned, the breakdown came down to a single point of refusal. Iran would not commit to never developing a nuclear weapon. That was the line Washington would not cross. And when Tehran refused to cross it with them, the talks ended. Within hours of the negotiations failing, President Donald Trump made an announcement that sent shockwaves through global energy markets. The United States Navy would begin a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, intercepting every vessel that had paid a toll to Iran, and would begin removing mines that Iranian forces had placed in the waterway. Operation Epic Fury had begun. The 2 destroyers deployed into the strait are the USS Michael Murphy and the USS Frank E. Petersen Jr., both Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers. These are not minesweepers. They are warships. The fact that they are being used for mine clearance operations tells you something important about how the United States views the threat level in this corridor. Mine clearance in a contested waterway is among the most dangerous operations a Navy can conduct. Iranian mines are not simple devices. The IRGC has spent years acquiring and developing sophisticated underwater weaponry, including influence mines that detect the magnetic signature, acoustic signature, or pressure wave of passing vessels before detonating. The U.S. Navy's approach involves a layered system. MH-53E Sea Dragon helicopters sweep areas using towed sleds that generate magnetic fields to trigger influence mines at a safe distance. Unmanned underwater vehicles, essentially military-grade underwater drones, map the seabed and identify objects that don't belong. And in cases where a mine must be physically neutralized, Navy divers or remotely operated disposal charges are used. This is slow, methodical, and extraordinarily high-risk work. And the USS Michael Murphy and USS Frank E. Petersen Jr. are doing it right now, with Iranian coastal batteries within range on the northern shore. Iran is not a passive actor in this situation. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates a doctrine known as asymmetric warfare. designed specifically to counter the overwhelming conventional firepower of the United States Navy. Their playbook includes swarming attacks using fast attack craft, anti-ship missiles launched from coastal batteries, and proxy forces positioned across the region. In Yemen, the Houthis have already demonstrated the ability to strike commercial shipping in the Red Sea using ballistic missiles and drone boats. In Lebanon, Hezbollah retains a significant arsenal of precision-guided munitions. Iran's ability to threaten multiple fronts simultaneously is not theoretical. It is a capability they have already exercised. The question is whether Tehran will attempt to escalate the mine clearance operation into a direct confrontation with U.S. destroyers, knowing that doing so would cross a threshold from which there is no easy return. Iranian military commanders are watching the USS Michael Murphy and the USS Frank E. Petersen Jr. right now. What they decide in the coming days will determine whether this remains an operation or becomes a battle. The immediate effect of the blockade and mine clearance operation has been felt in global energy markets. Oil prices have surged. Countries that depend on Gulf exports, South Korea, Japan, India, and China, are watching this situation with growing alarm. China, in particular, imports approximately 10.7 million barrels of oil per day. A significant portion of that supply transits the Strait of Hormuz. Beijing has made no secret of its displeasure with the blockade, viewing it as a direct challenge to its energy security and, by extension, its economic stability. What China does in response, whether it attempts to escort its tankers, challenge the blockade diplomatically, or escalate through other means, is a variable that Washington has already factored into its calculations. Meanwhile, reports have emerged that even oil tankers bypassing the strait have encountered obstacles. The Seventh Fleet is monitoring the Malacca Strait as well, a second critical choke point through which China-bound vessels must pass. The United States has, in effect, positioned itself at two of the world's most important maritime corridors simultaneously. 2 destroyers, 21 miles of water, 20% of the world's oil. The United States Navy is operating in one of the most contested maritime environments on the planet in real time, with Iranian forces watching from the shore. This is not a rehearsal. It is not a simulation. The mines are real. The destroyers are real. And the decisions being made in Washington, Tehran, and Beijing right now will determine whether this operation ends with the strait reopened or with something far more consequential.